Your hosts, Lady J and Kale Kale. Laugh Talk Giggle is a weekly live stream show where the hosts interview guests, feature entrepreneurs, discuss relationships,
Someone's at attention.
all while sipping wine and I grab
We said you got school this week.
ready to be entertained because it's about to go down.
Good evening. Welcome to Laugh Talk Giggle. Today's guest we have is Marshall Dion Bryant. Welcome to Laugh Talk Giggle.
Hi.
And she's we're gonna chat it up. We're gonna talk about all her accomplishments and her projects that she's working on. So can you give us I read your bio, very impressive.
Okay.
So give us just a little background. Give them a little background about yourself.
Well, okay. First of all, I started off in education as an educator, and then in education, I've always been a writer, so I would write, but I also got involved with community activism and different things in the community dealing with the children and some of the things that they were going through or they needed in their families, and of course watching. As people have probably watched the Detroit public school system and the school systems, they see some of the things between teachers, communities, at times when funding is not there, how do we feel, how do we express ourselves? So I went more vocal in the community once that needed to be addressed. I felt it needed to be addressed because I don't like somebody speaking for me, especially when somebody says, they need to do this, or why aren't they doing this? And you're really not hearing the voice of the educator. So from there, that's where things took off. I'm still in the process. I have been writing a book forever.
Okay, what kind of book? What is your book about?
The book is called The Covenant of Living Empowered.
Okay.
And some of the things that we're going to talk about are some of the things that I address in my book. But I also, I'm almost finished. It's just the editing part. When you are self-publishing and doing it yourself, it takes time. So I thought I have wrapped this thing up, and I hadn't.
Okay.
But I've had my own local TV show, Empowered Living. I have a 501c3, and I continue to work in the community. During the pandemic, I was had a food pantry where I feed families as well. So I do a number of things. But it's just I'm a person that I just reach out to other people.
Okay.
And that's just basically who I am.
Okay, so I know you said you were a teacher for a number of years.
For 20 years.
So what happened there? Did you lose interest or?
It was not losing interest. Because I still have students in my life.
Okay.
The children are still, I still have students that are grown that still contact me or keep up with me. It was just some things that it did not suit me. It did not suit me health-wise and the stress, because when you are communicating with people and you have to communicate where people understand. And it wasn't a matter of where I felt as a teacher I was being understood like many teachers, and we part the road and you go on to do different things because you become a part of a situation where you feel like your hands are tied or you backed against a wall. And at the time when I walked away, I was dealing with severe health issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that was caused from the job?
It was caused by stress.
Just a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Interesting. Do you miss it? Or do you
I
just miss the
still
kids?
I miss the children. I do. I'm someone that no matter what, I'm still going to teach. I'm still going to. Right now, I teach motivational classes. I do inspiration. So I still work with people. I still teach. It's just on a little bit more of a spiritual level, which that was one of the things when you're teaching in the classroom. And yes, students, they have books in front of them. They have curriculum, but they're people. And they're dealing with issues, and there's things that you have to touch and talk to them on the spiritual side as well. Sometimes that's not something they always want you to do, but how can we teach the whole child if that's not what we're doing?
Okay, so I know you said you were in the process of finishing up your book.
Mm-hmm.
So what motivated you to to write your book?
My daughter, when I had my daughter.
Really?
Yes.
Can you give us just a little insight on that?
Well, I was writing the book from the perspective of, I was, of course, working with children first because I was a teacher. I came right out of college teaching. And I thought I was going to substitute teach for a while and then go to law school. That's what I thought. But then when I got in the classroom, it was a bigger need. And once, there was an administrator and he was like, "You're good. You need to stick with this." And it was just, I couldn't leave the children. So that's how I stayed with them. But as I went along and then I had my daughter, I was coping with some things. It was during the downturn of the economic downturn in the early 2000s. And I looked at my daughter one day and I smiled. I was like, I got a pretty baby. I was just happy, a new mother. Mm-hmm. But then I started crying because I just immediately felt like I don't want my child to go through some of the hurt that I went through. And I started praying, and I'm like, God, how do I raise and protect this baby? Not from the standpoint of just, I don't know how to fight. As women, we know we're going to do what we have to do to fight for our children. That's when you become a mother, or you take on that role and you want it and you love that role, you'll do anything for your child. But it was the point of, I can't go to school with her every day and fight off the bully. I got to give her something that she knows how to do it for herself. I've got to teach her how to be this independent person that does not carry other people's baggage, does not feel that her self-worth, that she doesn't know how to build her self-worth. So that's where I started writing the book. So, when you pray for something, you got to be careful. God answered. So he told me, you got to go back through all those hurt. You got to go through all those things. And you got to talk to that little girl. You got to talk to that young woman. You got to talk and see, what is it that you need to either forgive? What is it that you need to learn how to walk away to be? What would you have said or done to walk away to be a better person? And then what would you do to nurture and to build yourself up, to empower you? And then from there, that's where I learned to give my daughter something that I didn't have. I start working on me as well. So that's where the writing the book started, from that aspect.
Was it a hard process?
No.
In writing it and going back, dealing with your issues?
No, not really. It was that time where when you are birthing something, it's a renewal, it's a purging. It just came out.
Okay.
And that creative flow was there. That was the thing. It was just, it was time for it, and it just flowed. And, so it wasn't hard at all.
Wow. I know you mentioned in your bio also that you're working on a script.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the script?
I have been working on a script, and the script is called If These Heels Could Talk. And what this is about, it is about trafficking.
Okay.
From from several different characters' perspectives. Like from the student that went on a bad date, that didn't know who she was meeting. From, just different angles of how that came about. And I gave it the title, If These Heels Could Talk, because, like they say, if these walls could talk, we walk in a lot of different places. And when we wear our heels and we're in places, if the heels could talk about the stuff that we go through as women, as we walk in, or how we feel, or, the things we have to get through to get to the places that we are. So that's why I named it If These Heels Could Talk.
And how long have you been working on your script?
That I have been working on for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And then while the thing is, when you're writing, in the writing process, because I'm an English major, but then I also I got the inspirational words from another writer, because at first I was writing and then I had pieces here and pieces there, and I stopped feeling bad because I saw where this particular person said, if you're a writer, you know you're a writer because you'll have little pieces here and there, and you'll start something. So I stopped feeling bad, and I just said, okay, when it's time for me to feed back into that, I will. And right now the process is to finish getting my book, the final edits to get the book out. But part of that was paused because taking care of my mother. My mother was she was hit with a stroke and she became bedridden, and she just recently passed. So yeah, yes, thank you. So that was part of the process of getting through that. With the book, I've had 2 major deaths since I've started the process of writing my book. My grandmother and then my mother. Oh, wow. So it's been one of those things as I've been going through it. This book has been with me through a lot of healing processes.
Wow. How long is your book?
It's 12 chapters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing all the publishing and editing by yourself?
Well, I'm working with someone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
When do you expect for it to be out?
Sometime this year. I'm not going to give it, because every time I give a final, this is it, then it's, so I'm just going to say it will be sometime this year. We're in that final process. It's just, God, for whatever reason, it just wasn't time. But I really feel that it's time now. And I'll be able to get through the process now.
Congratulations. Lady J working on book too.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's great. I want to do a book one day. I just don't know where to start.
Just start writing.
Yeah, that's what everyone keeps saying.
Yeah, just start writing.
But we're going to take a short commercial, okay?
Okay.
Welcome to Laugh Talk Giggle on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. We're streaming live every Monday night at 7 p.m. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitter Live. Back. Okay, so, Jay, you got something to say? Okay, so I know. Are you from Detroit?
Mhm.
Okay, because I know you you spoke about how you really want to get things better in Detroit. So what way are you going? What approach are you using to go about that?
Well, just from a point of connecting and just the community, coming together. I mean, I think Detroit is a great place. I just think sometimes stress-wise, there's just certain things that, that we just need to work on, to feel that we're here for each other. That's basically it. And that's part of the, in the book when I talk about stress and like I was talking about that's where, basically.
Let's talk about stress.
Okay.
I know today a lot of people, pandemic and everything, there's just a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people are just really feeling stressed.
Oh, yeah.
And let's touch on what is your opinion that you feel that is adding to the stress.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good way to go.
So how you feel about that?
I think some of it with stress. Stress is like, you got to learn, okay, how do I cope with it? So some people, they just do things that are quick fixes to cope, but they're not really anything that really gets anywhere.
Okay.
That's the thing with stress. And sometimes when you're trying to find a coping mechanism, that's when you go to things like maybe food addiction, sex addiction, drugs, even if you drinking your favorite pop too much. It's just like that. You're trying to find a way to escape. Then sometimes with communication, it's that adds to the stress, because if I'm communicating with you and then we don't necessarily see eye to eye, it's a matter of, am I hearing you to understand you, or am I just hearing you because I'm trying to pick apart what you're saying and then interject what I have to feel to manipulate to get what I want? That's not good communication. So those are the things that create stress. And a lot of times we see that in families. A family tries to get together and then all of a sudden it falls apart. And that's why a lot of families, they are just broken, they're split, and no, I don't want to come, I can't, who coming? Who fixing the potato salad? That is all about that emotional stress where you've already built the scenario up in your mind before you've even gotten there.
So what are some of the things that you do to release that stress?
Well, the first thing that for me and what I've learned and even what I teach my daughter. When you are dealing with something, first of all, pay attention to what am I feeling? Okay? Don't dismiss what you're feeling. It's important to understand what you're feeling, because if I don't understand me, there's no way I'm going to understand anybody else. So once I address how I'm feeling, then after that, I can see, where is this coming from? Is this coming from a past situation that this situation is reminding me of? Or is this something that I need to investigate within myself that's dealing with fear, anxiety, or whatever? Then I learn to control my breathing, because a lot of times when you are stressed or you're dealing with something, if you pay attention to how people are breathing or how they are just, it's out of control, which means your energy is out of control. See, I'm big on understanding and teaching people about energy, because we're all energy. That's how we connect, energy-wise. And then, the transference of energy, or what we pick up. Because sometimes we're very sensitive and we pick up off of each other. But if we don't balance ourselves, and you have to take that time to balance yourself. Take that time to take a minute. Also, meditation. Everybody, they may not meditate. They don't know. The one thing that I hear is, I don't know how to meditate.
No, I don't.
That's because we're not taught to take that time for ourselves. We don't know how to slow down.
So you do a meditation class, right?
Mm-hmm.
On what days, and where are you located at?
I am located out in Farmington Hills. I'll have to give you the address later on at the end of the show, because it's a new location that I just moved to. But I usually I usually just set up frequently classes. I don't do them from week to week. I just usually do them by groups. The last meditation class that I did was last year, and we went out into the park. We went out into a park in Southfield, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a group of 20-year-olds.
And does it work for you?
It does, because especially I love when I teach in the spring meditation and teach people how to go out to meditate, because when you take them out there and you teach them, okay, first of all, just take a few minutes. Now, if you are really calm and you close your eyes and you listen, you will hear everything come to you. But if everything is so far away and you can't pick up or sense anything around you, that means you are so distracted. That means you are so out of balance that you are not centered. So usually when people learn that outside, they're like, well, wait a minute. I can hear birds. We weren't too close from a freeway. Someone said, I can literally hear the engine on a car. But
Wow.
That's how centered they were.
Okay.
Because if we're not centered and we're just all over the place and we're not balanced, then what ends up happening is that's just nervous energy. And, you're not hearing really what you need to hear. You're not really, you really can't get your thoughts together. You really can't make those connections that you need to connect to. So a lot of times what we're dealing with is a lot of emotional stress. And everybody deals with emotional stress.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, who deals with it more? Black and brown people. And Black women, we're always at the highest percentage of most of these statistics.
Why do you feel that way, though?
Why do we, with us as Black women, why we deal with a lot more? Well, because one, socioeconomics. Historically, you have to look at it from a perspective. If emotional stress is something that brings on diseases, where have we been the most emotionally stressed historically? We had to get through slavery, correct?
Right.
Carrying a child. When you carry a child and you are going through emotional stress, you give a hormone off to that child. When you give that hormone off to that child, it affects that baby's brain even before it comes into the world. So the baby is anxious, nervous. Part of the brain, it has a thin lining. And basically what ends up happening is that affects them. So that's a part of when we talk about generational curses. Stress is a generational curse. So you got a mother that's dealing with socioeconomics, constantly in fight or flight. So over the years, we've been taught to take on more, take on more, take on more, but never stop to really balance ourselves, focus on our self-worth, and really build ourselves up. We're just taught our value is to give, 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 give. How many black women you know feel guilty for saying no?
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women do.
We feel guilty. We know we should say no, but the minute we do, what do? I feel bad. And then you go ahead and you do it, and then you end up doing things you don't want to do because you don't know how to set a boundary. And like I said, everybody deals with emotional stress, but we have to be realistic. We have to start taking better care of us because
I agree.
Yeah.
The stress is just like what the number one killer.
Well, the reason why it is because if you look at my mother, all of a sudden, vibrant woman, you know, even the strongest women, what ends up happening to them? All of a sudden, they're hit with something so quick out of the blue. That's how my mom was hit with. First it came on and they said dementia. Then after that, she was hit with a stroke. And then after that, it was just a downward spiral, and she never bounced back. Same with my grandmother. You know, my mother did have autoimmune diseases come from stress.
Okay.
You know, dementia. Where's that coming from? So I had a conversation with my doctor as I was going through the grieving process. And I love my doctor. She's one of those doctors you can really talk to. And that's the thing. Anybody, if you don't, you know, feel good about your doctor, find a doctor you can talk to. We talk about holistic things. We talk about things from emotional health. And she really, she hugged me at that time. I needed her. And I was sitting in her office and she said, I'm going to be honest with you. She said, your mother's stroke did not just come from her hereditary issue. She said, from the things you're telling me that your mom went through, and black women, we go through a lot. Like I said, everybody goes through a lot in life. But we carry a lot. And I can't talk from the perspective of no other woman other than being a black woman. We carry a lot of stress, and we're taught very young to carry this stress. But she said it came from emotional stress. And she said, and I'm worried about you. Okay. That you are going to have the same thing happen at some point in your life. At 35, I threatened my first stroke. At the time, yes, of giving birth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the person then told me, the doctor, my blood pressure was close to 200. And I had just had my daughter, and I went back in and for a follow-up, and she said, I'm going to be honest with you. She said, you are getting ready to have either a massive stroke or a massive heart attack. And she said, it is not from anything else, but something is eating you up. I was going through a lot of things in a relationship, with co-parenting. We weren't together, but at that point we were trying to co-parent. And she said, if you don't deal with this differently, she said, I'm going to tell you right now, you are not going to live. I'm not supposed to be sitting here having this conversation with you. She said, you will be dead before you are 40 years old. She said, if you don't figure out how to deal with this. And it was stress. Okay. It was emotional stress. It was from the relationship. It was from not being able to communicate, not feeling like I was being heard. It was from just a lot of things. Here I have a new baby. I've worked so hard to get where I am, and that stress was in that too, working to get there, get the degrees, pushing myself, pushing. But here I pushed to do all that. Now I got a new baby. Now the economy is different. You know, at that time, people couldn't find jobs. You know, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what degree you had. You know, at that time, people were going to the casino. Remember, they were taking their own lives. Yeah. That's what I'm saying about emotional stress. But at that point, it's like, how do I turn this around? And how do I stop letting whatever this is or in life that is happening eat me up from the inside out? And that's basically what was happening.
Yeah, that's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of people are dealing with the stress, but just don't know how to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a struggle for a lot of people now.
Well, the thing is, you have to understand, in society is run for us to buy into a lot of things. What's the biggest thing we buy into? Medicine. Yeah.
They always want to give you medicine.
Yeah, medicine. But the thing is, and then they teach the principles that they teach. They teach the law of attraction, which is to obtain more, obtain more. But basically, where we need to learn, when we learn more spiritual, how to cope, when you learn the 12 principles of karmic laws, then that's when you realize, like, wait a minute. First of all, we're set in a mind frame to constantly keep us where we feel there is competition, inadequacy. I don't feel I'm enough. I don't know how to coexist with you. How come we don't know how to coexist? But we can. But if you're kept in that mind frame where you're constantly keeping this wheel running, where somebody is marketing off of you, that's why we are staying in fight or flight or survival mode.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you did speak on that you had a show.
Yes.
What was that show about, and how long did you have that show?
That show I had for 5 years. It was called Empowered Living. And it was, I did it at WHPR. And
Where's that at?
in Highland Park.
Highland
Actually,
Park.
not too far from here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is
with
that
R.J.
for
Watkins. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was Empowered Living, and it was myself and a few other teachers. We were co-hosts, and we would bring people in the community, and we would share. It was a community's outlook to give answers, not to just sit and hash it up about what's the problem. If there's a problem, let's talk about where's the resource and where's the answer. So I would bring people on, just like I got someone from the Brain Injury Association, the president, which explained, first of all, our expensive car insurance, because Michigan has one of the highest insurances for car insurance.
True.
But a lot of people don't know what you're paying for in your car insurance is you have one of the best resources for brain injury. So whenever you get into a car accident, there's resources for brain injury. And a lot of people are walking around here with brain injuries. A lot of people that's incarcerated, they have brain injuries. So a lot of times they are being arrested and people don't know how to deal with them because the police aren't therapists. And basically you're dealing with someone that has PTSD. You're dealing with someone that has brain trauma that's never been treated. So those are the things that when I would bring guests on to give this type of insight and information. Because I actually, after I did it, I ran into, I spoke with a lady and she was saying, I don't know what's wrong with my grandson. But then once she got the information, she was like, okay, now I know where to take him, where to get him help. Because with brain injuries, people become very aggressive. But that doesn't mean that they need to be incarcerated. They need help.
Right. Treatment.
Yeah, they need treatment. So those were the things, looking for the answers that give the help that we need, rather than just repeating cycles that really get you nowhere.
Okay. Did you like the show?
I loved it.
Because it was a half an hour show?
No, it was an hour.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
It was an hour. I had very interesting people on. I had people that were dreamers, or people that were dealing with DACA. Like I had someone that had just recently been in the news and her husband had been deported. I had her on. I've had people that were doing like community events, people that were doing like our dream cruise. I've had people on, I've had basketball players, football players.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Carl Davis, that is from here. He's a young man that's a football player. I had him come on. I had someone that was the Bad Boys of Detroit back in the 90s. Yeah, I had one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
To come on. So I had a number of people come on my show.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So what are you working on right now? What is your upcoming project? Besides your book and your script.
Well, I'm trying to decide. A few years ago, I had become friends with the owner of Body, Mind, Spirit magazine.
Okay.
So she and I talked, and it's a possibility maybe I might do a radio show with her. I'm not really sure, because it was kind of like once the pandemic hit, it was just kind of like it was focused on family and, okay, how do I get out here and help the community, which was with the food baskets and everything like that. So now I'm trying to decide, am I going to do another TV show or am I going to do radio?
Now, weren't you featured in that magazine?
Yes.
And how did you get it to be in that magazine? And basically, what was it about? What was
basically the article was about teachers in the community. It was a Women's Month feature. Like, what are women doing to help the community, or what are women doing that are, bringing forth something that's great. So that's basically how I was featured in, and then talking to the owner of the magazine, and then, just move forward and work with a friend of mine that was a great photographer that did our pictures, and that was it, yeah.
Wow. And when was this featured?
Oh, wow, that was...
Some time ago?
It was a few years ago. It had to be like 2017 or 16, somewhere around there.
So where do you see yourself in like 5 years? Like, looking at everything that you've done, what is like your passion?
My passion right now with the classes that I am teaching, in the way that I connect with people on more of a spiritual level and teaching, I am, and I actually do have from the state, my business license for a spiritual development center. And I want to go, not just here in Michigan, for it to reach across the world for spiritual enlightenment.
So how are you going about to make that happen?
Well, right now, the first thing I did was, basically I started with a vision board. That was the first thing. Then after that, I just kind of wrote out what was my mission, what was my plan. And after that, just connecting with clients that I have. And then right now I have the office that I'm working out of. I'm actually was able to connect with my client. And this is the thing that I'm trying to teach people, that connection. I connected and I said, this is what I wanted to do. I didn't try to lead the path where it would go. So now I'm in a center where I can start, and it's small. So after that, I'm just, I'm open to the universe to connect, and it will happen. But, sometimes we get in our own way because we're so busy trying to drive everything. The thing is, write the vision and just keep going. It will expand, it will grow, it will blossom and go further,
So is this something that you're working by yourself, or are you looking to partner with anyone?
Well, more than likely, I will probably connect with more people.
Okay.
Because this is not something that, nothing in this life, nothing you will ever do in life where you will not connect to someone else. You see what I'm saying? Even if you are doing something, you're going to connect to other people. Now, whether or not they stay, that depends on what their life journey is.
Right.
But I'm meant to connect, just because we're not here not to connect to people.
Sometimes we don't connect to the right people.
Well, sometimes what that is, that's based on alignment. Sometimes people are here to teach you. Sometimes you either have to learn the lesson, they have to learn the lesson, or basically there's a reason for it, but you can't get too emotionally attached to it. That's the thing, that part of the lesson, and that's part of the lesson I learned. And then that goes back to that stress. We get stressed out on how things happen, why it happened, and sometimes you have to take time and get to the root of what's the purpose. What was the purpose of meeting that person? Okay, that was the purpose, and then they move on, you move on, and just leave it at that. I don't get stuck on that no more.
Yeah, sometimes it's not that easy though, but I do get it.
When you get tired of all of that,
yeah,
and you looking
and
for ways,
and you see it's not working that
exactly.
way, you got to step back and kind of like ask yourself, okay, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing whatever I'm doing. It's not working. So
Mm-hmm.
I got to try something else.
Yeah.
So
because
I've gotten.
At the time, I'll give you an example. When I said, okay, it's time for me to go a different path. And I left the school system. So, of course, I heard a ton of stuff, even from my family.
Really?
How you going to give up your teaching job? How are you going to give up that? Because somehow it's almost like this image of what you do. Now that's who you are. My teaching job was not Marshall. That's an ability that I have. That's a gift that I have. My degree is my enhancement. My degrees are not me.
Right.
So it was time for me to move on and do something else. And God was leading me in a different direction. And if you are open, instead of trying to direct and control it yourself, I'm going to explain how all this happened. It was time for me to go. Of course, I'm getting the backlash from it. But then after that, a few months later, here comes the pandemic. Okay? Mm-hmm. Shortly after that, my mom is bedridden. I was directed to go in that direction. Had I not, how was God going to work full time and take care of my mother that ended up in hospice? There was no way. You see what I mean? Sometimes we're so busy trying to control ourselves rather than just being open and going, wait a minute, you know what? I'm feeling this way, and this is and no matter what, I did not get emotionally attached to what people said or get offended by what they were saying. I just did what I had to do, and I just shut it off. And then actually, as things happened, they had to come back and they had to say, you know what? You made a right move.
So no regrets.
I have absolutely no regrets at all. Okay. None. Nope.
It's good advice though. So I do agree sometimes you have to step out on faith and believe, go forward in your dream, you know, because you'll never know if you don't step out there. Yeah. You'll always wonder why, because I know a lot of people that I speak with, they're unhappy in their profession, and some people don't want to change though. They just want to, I've been doing this for so long, I'm just going to stay with it. And I just feel like sometimes change is good for everyone.
Well, change is part of one of those karmic laws I was talking about. That's one of the things. That's what I was talking about when there's a lot of things that we buy into, but there's a reason why there's certain things that we don't know. There are 12 karmic laws. Change is one of those karmic laws. The karmic law of humility. The karmic law that says that each and every last single one of us has a God-given ability, talent, or whatever, and you align with that. The very first biggest one is cause and effect. There are different things, but why are we not being spiritually taught this? Because if we know this, then we know how, as they say in the church, how to govern ourselves accordingly. And we're not just buying into somebody else's stuff where we're miserable. Like you say, they're miserable, even though they're used to doing it and they don't want to change.
As a black woman, do you feel that we black women, that we work twice as hard to succeed in what we do? And it's just, so even though there's a lot of successful women that have made accomplishments, but it's still, I feel like the struggle is still there, still hard. It has not eased up.
No, it hasn't, because you know why? First of all, look at how women are paid, period. Women are paid less than men. Now let's look at how much less black women are paid. But we're expected to carry a heavy load, correct? So that means we're behind the white man, the black man, white woman, and then it's us. But then we're expected to carry everything. But it's manipulated to make it look like your worth and your value is not very much. But I need you to do this, 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 and this. I need you to do all these things. And we're constantly pushing to get all that done. So basically, yeah, we're very much so needed. We very much so, as women, because society, we play a big role in society. What did Malcolm X said? When you have a progressive nation, when you have the women are not treated like they are less than, because the woman, one, is the teacher, the woman is the nurturer. So when you have a progressive society, that woman is looked at as the heartbeat of that culture. But the reason why we're not is because I can manipulate you to do more, and then you feel guilty, then you, all those different things, then you carry all the stress, then you're broken down finally by all these diseases, problems, and everything else, and then we just throw you, we act like we can throw you away.
And so the cycle just keeps repeating itself.
Exactly. Well, who makes it off that cycle? Somebody's making it off that cycle.
But not we.
But not us.
The women.
Right. Because, well, the thing is this. It's a game that's being played on everybody. Because, you know, if you really, really know spiritually, if there is enough for everybody, that means there is no competition. Why does it have to look like there is competition?
That's a good question.
If there's more than enough, God said, I got enough for everybody. There is more than enough for everybody. I don't have to compete with you, because competition makes me feel I have to compete with you, because if I don't get it first, then that means I won't have it. I'm less than. I'll be without. No, you won't. It's more than enough. But somebody created this cycle that says
we always have to be in competition.
That we have to be in competition. We constantly have to be in a cycle that says that I have to have an enemy. Again, it goes back to those laws, karmic laws. Because with change, that means I can see there is a problem, I can fix it. There is something, I don't keep repeating the cycle. I learn the lesson and I move on. But if I constantly see I have a problem, I have an enemy. You got an enemy, that means I can't get past something. I constantly have something that says that I'm going to have difficulty, or I have something that I have to fight against. Again, which creates that fight or flight, which creates that stress, which creates that mentality that says that there is lack. Somebody is making it off us very, 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 very well, off us feeling that we are in lack.
No, I agree. I agree. So is there any advice that you can give to someone that's going through a lot of stress, or want to make a career change and don't really know how to go about it? What would you say to them?
The first thing that I tell people when they are wanting change, wanting to set boundaries, and this is what I had to learn myself, and even when I teach my daughter. First of all, who do you want to be? Determine who you want to be. I want to be. Okay? That's the first thing. What do I want? And be specific. Sometimes we don't know how to be specific. That's why we don't know how to get to it. Then, how does my mind feel? How does my body feel? How does my spirit feel? Because all those things are what helps you to attract what you will align with. And then from there, once you declare that and you focus on it, you will get to what you want. You will start setting boundaries, because once you say, this is what I want, then you'll start looking at, well, if this is what I want, but if I attach myself to this, or if I attach myself to what these people are saying or doing, that's going to pull me out of alignment. So then you have to say, no, I'm so sorry, that does not work for me. I'm so sorry. Thank you for showing me, but no. Then it's not so hard to say. It's not so hard for me to say no anymore. I listen. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for sharing.
Okay, I know you recently lost your mom and everything, and you were kind of like really grieving hard and going through a stressful point. Now that you seen your doctor and everything, so has the stress like decreased?
The stress decreased because as you're grieving, the whole family's grieving, and everybody deals with stress and grief differently. So of course, that's the hardest time when you lose someone, especially when you lose your mother or grandmother or those matriarchs of the family. So sometimes people start acting out, and they start acting out like children, or they start just saying and doing things. And that was part of alleviating some of the stress, was sometimes setting a boundary that I had to set a boundary and say, okay, I hear you. I understand that you are in pain. I am in pain. But, just setting a boundary. And that was part of, because sometimes when you are grieving, as you're grieving, you're taking on sometimes other people's stuff that you don't need. And sometimes you become the emotional punching bag.
Right.
And I was not going to be the emotional punching bag, because you are grieving, because I'm grieving too. Now, either we can sit down and we can talk about this and we can find ways to cope, or I can help you find some help, but you are not going to call my phone every day and night bugging the heck out of me, thinking you going to drive me crazy just to make yourself feel good. I was not going to deal with that. So that sometimes that's where that boundary has to go.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it is good to talk. Because if you don't talk about it, another person really doesn't know how you feel. Because I know going through a grieving process, everyone grieves differently. And people do assume, like, well, she understands, but you really don't understand, you know. And it's just something, because a lot of people, I know, they haven't lost people close to them.
Right.
Like a brother, sister, mother. And they really don't know how you feel.
Right.
And that feeling, when you lose someone like that, it's just something it's unbearable.
Right.
But you have to deal with it and coping with it, grieving. It's a process, you know. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
So I do agree with that. So, well, you have a lot of stuff going for you. I'm so glad you came by, and
glad to be here with you ladies.
Let us know when that book is finished. I would love to purchase it, read it, and see.
Okay.
Read it. Maybe it might get me motivated. And I know you said you do the spiritual class.
Yes.
And you do motivation too?
Yes, I do motivations. I actually, I haven't spoken anywhere in a while, because for a while I was doing some keynote speaking.
So when you do those, what are those about? Are they about
the
building Detroit, or?
Well, it just depends on the topic, or the last two that I did. One was for an organization that this young lady had, and actually that one just kind of hit me and caught me off guard how that happened. She was building this foundation, and she was having this reception, and it was a boxer there. It was people from the Tuskegee Airmen there, and she invited me to come. Oh yeah, it was great. And I was like, oh wow, I felt good. I get to be there. And then she and her sister was asking me some questions, and then all of a sudden I said, well, who's going to be your keynote speaker? And she said, you. I was like, what? I was like, me? And she was like, yeah. She was like, oh yes, you. We want to hear what you have to say. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, okay, Jesus. And then the next one, another young lady was sitting in the audience, and she heard me speaking, and she said, I'm having a mother-daughter tea. And she was like, I want you to come.
Okay.
And then she asked me. So sometimes that's how, with alignment, that's how things go and happen. It's just kind of as I'm doing stuff, and then the next thing, somebody like, I heard you, can you do? And I was like, okay. Just like one of the classes that I was teaching, it was just happened to be these 21-year-old young women, and they were like, motivation-wise, we just really want to do something different in our lives. We really just want to understand how to get to a certain place. And they were like, we watch you, and you, the way you carry yourself, we like it. Can you teach us? So I was like, okay. So that was one of those moments when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It was kind of one of those moments. And that's how it just kind of happened. That's why I was saying sometimes things just happen by alignment, and we have to be open and willing and ready for it.
I agree. Yeah. We got a couple of minutes, so we're going to wrap things up.
Okay.
And, so can you give, you're not on Facebook, right?
No, not really.
Instagram?
No. Yeah, I have an Instagram. It's Dion.Bryant on Instagram.
Okay, and then also, you have your information for your what is it? Your
My
meditation
little-
class.
No,
people
what I'll
find
do
you.
is when the next class is open or when I set it up, then I'll, give the information. But normally, like I said, people just kind of reach out to me, and I set those classes
On
up.
Instagram.
Normally, I just I'll usually put it in one of the magazines, either Body Mind Spirit magazine, or it's another one of the other magazines. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but normally that's where I usually do my advertisements for more spiritual development in those magazines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after once you get your first book completed, are you thinking about writing another one, or?
Yes.
'Cause I know you say you do a lot of writing.
Yeah. The next one after that is another book I'll be working on. It's Through the Eyes of Daddy's Baby Girl. That one is it's more it's inspirational, but it's a little bit more. It's not so much a self-help. It does focus on some things in my life, and it's just like seeing things through the eyes of the youngest child.
Okay.
But then also because I'm the youngest of 7.
Oh, 7.
Yeah, but then it's also kind of, one of those books where it's kind of inspirational, but it's kind of funny, but it's just, it has a storyline and it has more of a plot, more so than just being like a self-help book,
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, I thank you for coming out this evening.
All right, thank you
I
for
really
having me.
enjoyed you.
Okay.
Hope you come back again, and
Yeah, if you have me,
wish
I
you
sure
nothing but
will.
the best on all your accomplishments that you're working on.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay.
I've learned some things today.
Okay.
So hopefully maybe I can get motivated and make some changes. And
Yeah.
I really want to get started on a book.
Okay.
Just got to figure out where to start.
Just
and
start
what I want to
writing.
talk about.
Just start writing. Sometimes you have that one moment where just write, just journal, and then
And
just kind of
I do journal, but it'd be here, there.
Yeah.
I used to do it every day. But
You
I
never
get
know.
back
You
to
go
it.
back through there, you might go back and find something in one of those journals that you've written down, and it's just kind of like that's where you find the purpose of where you want to go with something.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. All right.
Yes, pass me that book right there. I want you to see
Oh, this one. Okay.
pens. Pen. Let's see. Thank you. Ooh, is that a pencil? Get you just to sign your name and stuff in here.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Interesting show.